as a roar. He does see the roar. Here comes the avalanche. Here the avalanche again, my friend.
Welcome to Revolutionary Thinking with me, your host, Ariel the Avalanche. This is where we get your stereotypes, put them on the examination table, get out a sledgehammer, and smash them into smithereens, and throw those smithereens into the incinerator. Last time we came down on showing compassion to cruelty. This time we are coming down on credentialism. Even though I'm coming down on credentialism, I'm just going to throw in a very important caveat here. It's important to know that lack of credentialism is a problem. You can't just say that, hey, I just decided to be a doctor and operate on someone, and you have no idea how to do that, and you're creative with your operation. That is not going to fly. But what I want to talk about more is this micromanaging of making sure that it's not so much credentialism that you need a credential to learn how to go to the bathroom. You don't need a credential to be a decent human being or a friend to someone. When it's this hyper credentialism that retail jobs are asking for master's degrees, that's when I have a problem with credentialism. So that being said, let's dive right in, or in my case, come down on this thing. We're usually judged in social situations by the jobs that we have, and what mostly determines that is our education, our training, and degrees, things of that nature, determines what types of jobs that we can apply for and have access to. But for so long, graduation and these credentials are used as a dangling carrot in front of your face that promises you the world and more. I mean, we all had the lecture when we were younger, either by our parents or by our teachers. This credential, this degree, this education is going to open up a world of opportunities for you. And when these opportunities open up for you, the world is your oyster, and you're going to be successful, and you're going to be free, and you're not going to have to worry about money, or you're not going to deal with maybe high stress and more of those lower paid jobs once you put your nose to the grindstone and you get these credentials. Now, I graduated post recession in 2009, and a lot of young people at that time who were graduating were realizing that it turned into a false bill of goods. And all of a sudden, a lot of us were being told that we should have known better. We should have known that now getting these credentials, whether it was a associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, and it was in a very specific field, we should have known that, of course, we're going to start at entry level and sometimes not even then. Of course, we shouldn't be so stuck up that we don't accept that service job or we don't accept that lower paid job. Who do we think we are? When the entire time we were told that if we do get these credentials, we could leapfrog that, which all turned out to mostly be a lie to a lot of us during the time of the recession. What's even more ugly is that a lot of uncredentialed people couldn't even get their foots in the door anymore of jobs that didn't need to use credentials. And the disgusting thing that I find is a lot of people judge people who didn't have these credentials as lazy and not having drive, when the truth is more nuanced than that. These people may not have had the money, the transportation, and or they could have had a family member to take care of. So life happens to people. And a lot of times when life happens to people in the midst of a crisis, it's that they just can't put the material things together to pursue a credential. Not having the means and ability to pursue a credential isn't equivalent to not having the drive and the dedication to get a credential. It's important to make that distinction where someone of privilege can have the kind of money, transportation, and home life to pursue a credential, whereas someone who may have been born into generational poverty may not have all those factors to pursue that credential. They have the dedication and the drive, but they may not have the money and the transportation, and they may not even qualify for a loan. So it's important to keep these nuances in mind before we make blanket judgments about our fellow human beings. What also really disappoints me is that experiential learning, in my experience, growing up as a millennial was virtually non existent in the schooling system. Creativity and the arts was undermined. And when you couple that with lazy employers and corporations that don't do on the job training anymore and have these idiotic hoops for people to jump through and the hyper gatekeeping, that was extremely disappointing. Companies became greedier and lazier, and so did the employers. They wanted you to know everything out of the gate when the schools became greedier and lazier, or at least the policymakers that create the policies for the schools, when they took all the experiential learning out. So it was a match made in hell. Take out the experiential learning and take out on the job training and just bore everyone to death with standardized testing. The people who came up with policies like this will forever be written in my book as a bunch of goddamn stupid, brainless, boneheaded, idiot morons who didn't deserve the jobs that they had. I don't know in which dumpster fire they found these policymakers to create policies so stupid, idiotic, backwards, and Stone Age as we were going through the space age. Shame on all of these morons. We need to have a serious talk with them. And when we do have that talk, I'm really looking forward to the day when more opportunities are democratized and people can get more chances to do work and learn from the work instead of that work needing credentials straight out of the gate. You know, instead of all these hoops to jump through and all of these gatekeepers, why not connect people when they're getting their education to the certain experiences that they need to show that they can be proficient in the kind of things that they want to do, that they want to learn in life, instead of constantly having these systems that keep people out, that make it harder and harder for people to get in, that make it more and more complicated. It's just unnecessary. So much human potential is going to waste because we thumb our noses at experiential learning. We've gone credential crazy, and it's not serving us anymore. It's hurting us more than anything else. So this is something that really intelligent, really articulate, and holistic policymakers need to look at instead of money grubbing test companies and textbook companies. It's atrocious, and we need to do more for our youth and for our people than the short-sighted, dim-witted people that we have making our policies now that are just looking at the credentials and the dollar signs that they can make to force people to get these credentials. The problem I find with credential obsession is, how can you measure creativity? How can you measure dedication? How can you measure passion? How can you measure decency? How can you measure good old-fashioned showing up and getting the work done? Most of this isn't a credential. Most of this comes from experience and getting to know someone. And it's mentorships and apprenticeships. When an apprentice works with a mentor and they are the mentee, then that mentor can know this person has work ethic. These are the troubles this person has. These are the areas that this person is not doing so well in, and these are the kinds of help that this person needs, and that information can be relayed through a network. Credentials don't tell you that. Heck, with credentials, you don't even know if that person cheated to get through or not. You can't tell because it's just a piece of paper. But if there is a mentor and that mentor is preparing someone for a career or for a vocation, all that information of the work that was done and that person's personality and attitude and their strengths and weaknesses can be relayed through some kind of network, and we look down on that. In fact, that is outsourced. Now we're expected to somehow find our own mentors in life. I remember when I got out of school, I was always told, do you have a mentor? Do you have a mentor? But excuse me, if we had 12 years of this public education and 4 years of college, you're telling me that our schooling system is so incredibly incompetent and brain dead, they would not think of making sure mentorships and apprenticeships existed? And when we graduated and when we went out into the world, we wouldn't be left with this scarcity mentality or this idea that we weren't good enough, or having to go through these application tracking systems that we have no idea how to maneuver when we got older and that our parents didn't have to deal with. There is some serious incompetence coming from on high, from above, and it is atrocious. It has to change, and we should be having more conversations about these things, because when we don't, nothing changes and we get left in the dust and other countries eat our lunch. A lot of times also, credentials come with some kind of status implied, and I'm not a big fan of status. I'm a bigger fan of character, and character counts. People don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. A lot of times, jobs also look, and employers also look for people of character than people with status. People of character show up, they do a job well done, and they don't put others down. And also, what really frustrates me the most about credentialism is that make sure that when people do get the credentials, they're not left in the dust, and there has to be something on the other side. And a lot of times with credentials, and when it gets caught up in big money and everything like that, sometimes to make more money, these universities and these people who are issuing the credentials constantly move the goalposts. They keep making more prerequisites or postrequisites and keep requiring more classes, keep requiring more updates, which costs money and becomes a racket. So credentialism is bad because not only does it become a keeping up with the Joneses game about status, but it also becomes a racket, and a lot of people can't afford that racket and need the money that comes from the job to put food on the table. But these people who want to make it a racket keep those other people down, and that I strongly condemn. So anyway, that was me coming down on credentialism, and the next thing, or should I say we are going to be coming down on is criticism and judgment isn't help. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Avalanche. I will see you on the next episode.